It's so crazy how we connected, man. Yeah, the Reddit joining.
You know, it's funny. I don't. I'll comment on random stuff. I just kind of saw a thread. I was like, you know what? Let me do it. I actually got a lot of interest, like just people, just connections and all that. So it's kind of cool. So it's just interesting because I used to comment all the time on the job subreddit.
Yeah.
But the big issue was I'd comment a lot of helpful advice, but it didn't lead to increased website traffic.
Yeah.
And it didn't really lead to anything. And it's not that I don't mind doing it. It's just that time I wasn't making anything, so I needed.
Sure.
But then I kind of did the same thing on LinkedIn. But the beauty of LinkedIn, when you comment on LinkedIn, they see your profile, they see your headline, they see that. So now it kind of led to conversations, and it sort of built up my profile. So that's kind of why I did that, where it's just like I kind of just kept on giving advice, and and it's a good community.
Yeah.
Because my username was NoDegree.com, DOTCOM, but it's not like anybody visited. Whereas now it's like people are like, wow, that's cool. I like your podcast. So it led to a lot.
Yeah. That's incredible. I'm in the same boat. I follow that entrepreneur thread, but
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of content on there. I guess the Reddit algorithm, I don't spend as much time on there as I do some other ones, I guess. So that particular one, it was just super interesting. Like I love the $100,000 mark as like a place just to see, like there was such a vast difference.
That's where I came up with the idea for this, because the original Reddit thread was, for those of you without a college degree who make over 6 figures, what do you do and how'd you get the job?
Yes.
And that was the inspiration, because it was like, I'm a claims adjuster, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a surveyor. Then I was like, let me search up trades.com. And obviously trades.com, they're going to ask for too much. It was for sale. But then I was like, let me put NoDegree.com, put an inquiry, and someone came to me a few days later, and it was like $1,800. So I called to my buddy. I was like, yo, we could do this. We spent $600. Yo, we could do this. And it just grew from there.
That's, man, it's such a smart idea, first of all. And I had a chance to check out a couple different of the podcasts that you've kind of established over. I think you mentioned right around the same amount of time that I was doing it when we talked on the phone.
August 2019. I started.
Right. And you said you're around episode 60 something?
Yeah, 60. Yeah, 60.
So yeah, man, I mean, just the whole idea of having, I can just tell from chatting with you just for a little bit today, and when we connected before, having a platform to be able to talk and learn yourself, as well as provide some encouragement and inspiration for others. Like it's such a beautiful thing that, we live in a generation where you can do that. You can do it pretty easily, get it started pretty easily, as long as you're willing to, actually do it,
I wish podcasts existed like in the same. I wish they were as accessible as they are today, man. Because I had a long commute. I went to high school in the Bronx, so having a podcast would have made a world of difference, man.
Oh, huge, man! And let's not forget about the thing I mentioned to you before. How crazy it is that we're talking right now. And I mentioned to you, one of my closest friends when I first moved to Piscataway has the same name, Iqbal.
Yeah, that's coincidence, crazy.
Man. I didn't even. I meant to hit him up, and I'm obviously going to send him the conversation once it's published and stuff. But I think that's just that's kind of. I mean, I know it's a popular name too.
Iqbal is common. Yeah, Iqbal is a common Pakistani name.
Sure. Yeah. But I want to jump in, man. I want to just kind of start with the introduction of yourself.
Yeah.
So we can start there, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit more about kind of how you guys started with your business and things like that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's go. Let's get started.
So you can start off, if you don't mind, just sharing a little bit about your background, who you are, and let's just leave it at that. Who you are.
All right. Cool. So my name is Jonaed Iqbal. I help people without college degrees find meaningful jobs that pay well. I'm also the host. I'm the founder of NoDegree.com and the host of the NoDegree podcast, where I interview people without college degrees. Now, I have a very different background. I actually have a master in actuarial science from Columbia University. Nice. And I worked as an actuary for a few years. And for those of you in the audience who don't know what an actuary is, actuaries are the ones who come up with insurance prices. So how do you charge for car insurance for a 22-year-old Bengali male in Brooklyn? And you basically use current data to forecast the future, right? And that's how they use models. They're trying to predict the future, right? Because they have to make sure they can pay out the damages and stuff, right? So I got into that, right? I'm typical Bengali immigrant son of immigrant. I'm an immigrant, right? My parents are
Hmm.
a hardcore immigrant. Just like nothing was ever good enough. You got a 99. Why didn't you get a 102?
Yeah,
Kind
where's
of
that
stuff
extra
like
point?
that. Where's the extra point? It was just like, oh, you got into the second best school. You didn't get into the first school, and it was always like that. Now I just ignore my parents. So just comment. It's just I don't really talk to them about like that stuff.
Yeah.
But I they were very big on education. They were very big on that. And then I went to I went to Bronx High School of Science. It was a very competitive high school. It's like a top 20 high school in the city. It was like a prison, man. It was just work, 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 right?
Mm. Hmm.
And then I went to Queens College. I actually like college. College was like easy after high school. It was just like
Mm.
and then I went to Columbia University. Now, when I went to Columbia, I realized that a lot of the kids were privileged, and I'm talking about privilege. Like, look, I'm privileged. I have two parents, right? I get to live at home. I get to do that, right? That's a privilege in of itself, right? I'm a
Yeah.
guy. There's some benefits of being a guy, right? And when it comes to business and all that. Now, now these kids were rich, man. I'm talking about like their parents were paying 5, 6K a month for them on rent, right? Like
Wow.
money wasn't an option. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
I'm tutoring. I was happy. I got like 25 to 35 bucks an hour, and I tutor, and I was happy
Yeah.
that I got that, but I'm here making sure, oh, I can pay toll right now to save 20 minutes, whereas they're like, I'm gonna spend the weekend in Paris, or I'm gonna go to Mexico for the weekend. And when
Sure.
they didn't have to worry. I was like, I need a job after graduation because I gotta pay bills. I've been broke all my life. This is finally my first chance of having money.
Right.
And so like going through this, it's like I realized who the system of education, who it helps and who it fails. Now, I'm not anti-education. I'm not. If I know a kid's good in school, they're doing well, and they want to become a lawyer, whatever, I say, hey, look, and you're not paying a lot of money, go do that.
Hmm.
But if you don't have the support system, or if you're not the best in school, like there's some very smart, hardworking people who are creative, who can get a lot done. They're just not good in school. That's not their best environment,
Hmm.
And if you judged a fish by its ability to fly or a bird by its ability to swim, they would fail, right? So some people, school is not their domain. So
Sure.
going through school, look, school. Yes, I worked hard, but school came easy to me, right? It's like
Hmm.
for me, it was a matter of if I study, I'm gonna be top in the class, and I didn't need to study as much. Like I remember when I used to study with people, like I knew people who were great students, but I study half as much and still score higher than them.
Hmm.
Just like look, you and I can work as hard as we want. We can live basketball. We'll still never touch LeBron James. Doesn't matter what, right?
Right. Sure.
Yes, he works hard and stuff, but also there is that he's 6'8". He has right. So a lot of people have to realize that there's a lot of components when it comes to being successful in different fields, right? That
Yeah.
you look at Olympians, right? You look at like a Michael Phelps, right? He has a certain wingspan, right? His feet are shaped a certain way. He produces half the lactic acid, right? Yes, he works hard, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have some other components too. And a lot of people just think that just because he has those, that it diminishes the hard work. That oftentimes you need a combination of everything, right? You
Hmm.
need the perfect storm.
Definitely. That's dope, man. So first of all, thank you for that background. That's really cool. So New York. So I'm also from New York, by the way. I
Yeah.
was actually born in the Bronx. So I'm from New York originally, lived in
Which part of the
Yonkers.
Bronx?
So I was born in Albert Einstein Hospital,
Okay.
which I don't know if you know where that is. And I also don't know too much about the section or the area that I was at because we moved from there to Yonkers, I think when I was maybe about 4 or 5,
Okay.
something
Okay.
like that. So really young. But I lived in Yonkers for, like what seems like looking back on it, many, many years, but it was only like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or something like that. But it was like all my childhood in those like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
second
childhood
grade.
feels forever, right?
Exactly,
It's just
exactly. It's like you look back, it's like, wait, that was only 4 years. Okay, that's pretty crazy. But that's really cool, man. And also Columbia, another little similar thing. My sister also went to Columbia University to study speech pathology. She studied
okay.
speech pathology for her master's degree. She just graduated a few years ago. So that is really awesome. And for those of you who don't know, the two of us met through a Reddit post 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Nighttime, I'm on Reddit and I see a pop up on there, and it's talking about, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, what type of business do you have? For those of you entrepreneurs that make 100,000, I think the
A
post said,
little. Yeah.
what type of business do you have? And that just to me was just so fascinating, just to jump in and just see what other people are doing, in that sort of similar bucket as me. And of course, came across your post on there, and it kind of spoke to me a lot as well because you mentioning about resume and helping people with their resumes and stuff like that. I I worked at Verizon prior to becoming a teacher. And I've had, and even prior to that, going to Rutgers University, doing like what is that called? Um, what is that called? Like the career services
Yeah.
department where they could do the resume review and all that stuff. And then of course, like taking training classes and things like that while at Verizon to kind of learn about some of the things that I'm sure that you kind of instill in your clients. So it kind of just spoke to me because that's stuff that I'm interested in, right? It's like you're a person who believes X, Y, and Z, and you have these skills and you have these traits, which is awesome. And you're someone who would be perfect for, job A, B, or C. But if your resume, this is not a resume, this is just some
Yeah.
notes I was taking earlier. But if your resume is not, doesn't convince the hiring person of the fact that you are the person for this job, then you're not going to be given an opportunity. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your business and sort of how it came to be. So like from the moment you left off just now about your background, like what, you mentioned about obviously your tutoring when you were in
Yeah.
college, what gave you sort of the idea to say, all right, this is something that I can see becoming a business, becoming a successful business, and just sort of walk us through a little bit how that happened
Okay.
for you.
So I was working on NoDegree.com the whole time. So I found out NoDegree.com in 2014 in grad school. I unfortunately had to work, get a real job and everything, just because I don't come from a wealthy family and I sort of needed to save up some money and all that.
Sure.
I was always working on NoDegree.com on the side, right? And then eventually 2018, August 2018 came to a point and I was like, look, I know what I need to be doing. I know all the things. There's so much to do. I can't work a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
So I quit my job. And look, again, I'm going to go back to privilege. I have the privilege of living at home. So I was able to quit and not have to worry about rent. I used to pay my dad $600 a month in rent. I just told my dad, I was like, yo, I'm quitting to do the business. I can't really pay you that. And then, but a lot of people
Sure.
don't realize that. So I want entrepreneurs to realize that you have to take advantage of these things, because if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, they come from wealthy backgrounds,
Yeah.
right? That they have these things. And I'm not wealthy, but I am blessed to be able to, live at home, because it does give me a lot of cushion, right? The money that I would have spent on rent, I can invest back into the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't, dude, I was broke for like a year and a half. Like I didn't really make money, just little things. I had a little ATM business with my friend and stuff. And, the website wasn't gaining the traction it needed, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
tough, right? You think, oh, I'm going to get to this point. There's a lot of, you got to create content, you got to create SEO. Then I got to worry about regular things I got to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was tough. And then my friend was doing resumes and he was charging like 2 to 3K per resumes.
Mm.
And then he was like, yo, you could do this too, right? And my friend, actually, I met him on LinkedIn in Canada. And he was
Wow.
like, yo, you could do it. And then I would follow LinkedIn. I knew an okay amount of resume. Like, I could write an okay resume.
Mm-hmm.
But through LinkedIn, this is how I learned a lot of my things from Reddit comments. Like, a lot of business, I straight learn from Reddit comments. Like, a comment here and comment there. This is what a
Sure.
lot of people don't realize. Like, if you go through the internet, you'll find little gems here and
Oh
there.
yeah.
And
Oh
they're
yeah.
not the most sexy, but you'll be like, wow. So through LinkedIn, I'd pick up like, oh, this is good resume advice. This is good resume advice. And then I started
Mm.
learning about the ATS, the applicant tracking system, right? And I take bits and
ATS.
pieces, applicant tracking system. So because
Okay.
companies get lots of resumes, how do they filter it? They use like an ATS to organize the resume, to sort the resumes, to go
Gotcha.
through, to search. And I learned a lot. And then my friend filled in all the gaps of
Okay.
the resume. So then I now look, I'm still not the best, but I'm good enough that I'm still gonna do a better job than you, right? Just
Okay.
because it's like so. And then I did a lot for free, right? Like the first few resumes I did for free, they got some interviews. I helped someone land into Tesla, right? He was
Wow.
unemployed, and I helped him land a job as a solar roofer at Tesla, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then I did some other things. I helped like other people, and I saw that they were getting interviews. So then I started. I was like, oh, you know what? Let me start charging like $200 for a resume, $200, and then that was good. I started getting results. Then I was like 250, then 300, right? And then again, I had a very unique process in that
Mm-hmm.
I spend 3 to 5 hours with someone on their resumes, and I write the resume in front of them. So essentially, I interview them, and I teach them. Here's how I come up with the line. So now they can see how I come
Mm.
up with this line, and then I'll tell them, here's what I'm including, here's not what I'm including, and I'm teaching them all the parts of the resume so they understand, why am I doing this? Why is this line like this? Why am I removing this word? And
Mm.
I tell them what's important, what's not, because here's the other thing. Some things are not as important. Like, for example, if you use the word managed versus spearheaded, that's not the biggest reason why you're not getting called back, right?
Okay.
There are bigger reasons. It's more like principle based. So it's really breaking everything down. And I just got good at it. And the reason I like resumes was because I essentially got paid for case studies. I got to interview people. I learned their salaries. I learned what their previous resume was, what kind of interviews they got, what kind of positions they held. I learned about their careers. And
Mm.
this is helpful as the founder of NoDegree.com. I learned about all their careers. I learned about who's getting the resume. And then, you learn a lot. Like, what issues do
Sure.
minority women face in the workplace? What issues do minority guys face? How is it? And then you kind of
Wow.
get a lot of inside info.
Yeah.
And then I just started raising my prices. I used to charge $297 because you know how it is. You got charged $297 instead of
Of course.
300, and
Have to.
I raised it to $347, and all of a sudden people start saying no. And then my friend in Canada, he said, "Yo, you know what you got to do?" He said, "I was able to raise." He said, "Nobody's paying me 2K up front. I'm doing payment plans. Just take a deposit." So what I started doing was to raise my price. So instead of saying 297, I say you pay two payments of 227, one before we start working and one after.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did the thing. I said you only pay the second payment if you're completely satisfied.
Mm.
Now what happens is a lot of people, they have no issue paying for something that's good if
Mm-hmm.
they know it's good, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
know you're good until they work with you. Because what
Sure.
happened was that 297, the people were like, "Wow!" After they work with you, "Wow, this is a bargain. We love using." But then I can't be like, "Yo, can you give me a bonus for it?"
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. If it's that good, let
right.
me get a couple $100
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah. So now it was like organic, where I could bake it in, where it's like, hey, you lose the risk of paying for something that's not worth it, and then that's kind of how I did it. So now I start doing like two payments of 247, two payments of 297, and stuff like that. So that's how I did it, and I've done over 300 at this point, and I've gotten
Wow.
people into Amazon, Tesla, Microsoft, Disney, Sony, like you
Wow.
name it. I just got into some. I just got someone into Google 2 days ago,
Wow.
unemployed. I mean, it's not a full time. It's a contractor role, but it pays
Sure.
100K. And again, these roles like fix you in, and oftentimes it's like little things. I'll be like, you do this, do this, do this, and through that I learned. I like tested things. I was like, yo, that person made these changes, they got results. I'm gonna keep doing these changes.
Right.
Because the people who didn't get results, I always tell them, if you don't get results, let's come back to me and we'll work something. And I've
Right.
had like in the beginning a few, and then we changed something, and now they got interviews. So it's like,
Mm.
again, every resume I learn more about that career. So it's like I've done lawyers, I've done doctors, I've done pharmacists, I did a dentist, I've done it for entrepreneurs, I did it for people in retail, I did it for people in marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like I got someone a $64,000 salary increase. He's making 32K. He got the 64K. I've gotten people like $50,000 increase. Now, am I getting that for everybody? No, but I do know now a lot more. So it's like I've learned so much about careers. And for NoDegree.com, it's like I just know so much now.
That's dope. So thank you so much for the info. So let me ask this. Your people that you're working on the resumes, are these anyone? These are not people that don't have degrees, right?
Anyone.
This is
Only because
open.
look, yeah, and you know what the thing is? It's like a lot of them. Get a good amount who don't have degrees, but the majority of people do have degrees,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And I kind of, there was one thing. It says, in order to serve the poor, you need to serve the rich first,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a common thing. It's like,
Sure.
because ideally I like to give as much away for free as possible. That's why it's like
Sure.
I have the No Degree podcast free, all the content on my site free. The only thing, if you really want to pay, is like if you seriously want me for a few hours and stuff. That's when
Mm-hmm.
you have to pay. So I usually tell people, look, if they're like, hey, I can't afford that, I'll be like, look, this is what you got to do. Listen to this episode. Here's a
Mm.
format you got to do, and here are the articles you got to read. Because I know
Mm-hmm.
how it is as job seekers. I know a lot of people don't have money, so like
Sure.
I'll take the money from these people with degrees all day.
Sure. I love that, man. And so what I really, really liked about that too is first of all, you mentioned about like the case study, which is like whenever you're able to find such value out of your experience and obviously you're getting paid for it, like that's a huge, huge win in itself.
Yeah,
And also having, as you were mentioning about your what I'll call accolades, aka your accomplishments, we can call it as such, landing these people into these different positions, it's very, very sort of concrete to me. Like if you have your website with like 10 or however 15 or 20 or however many like of these, you mentioned Amazon, you mentioned Google, you mentioned
yeah,
Tesla and several other companies, the fact that you had something to do with and a significant part in terms of helping build a resume, landing these people either interviews or actual employment, is quite incredible, right? So I would imagine that the person that's looking around, they would look at that and that's going to stand out some. I want to work at
yeah.
Tesla. I want to work at Amazon. I want to work that type of thing. So I kind of like that. I'm sure you kind of have that as a thing that's front and center. Like just like when you
Yeah.
go to some websites, it's like,
So
you
I
know,
have it. It's not. So the thing is, I get resumes through referrals.
Okay.
Not on a website. So I don't have a website for resumes. I actually get them through my LinkedIn profile. Like people will see it, they'll
I
kind of
see.
see, and I
Gotcha.
have like 77 reviews on my profile. So the way I kind of do it is I tell people, look, if you're interested in my resume service, here are my prices.
Hmm.
But I'll say, look, I'll give you 15 minutes for free, just so you know that I know what I'm talking about. And most of the time, in those 15 minutes, I give them more advice than anybody else. I've even done resumes for people who worked in HR, right? So it's
Mm.
like I've even done
Wow.
there. Now the thing is, and I do it this way because I say, look, I place people at these companies. You can check my reviews, and they're all tied to actual profiles. It's not like a website where I can
Uh,
copy and paste and make things up.
that's
So it's like go,
huge.
and then I'll say 15 minutes, and then after that, if they don't like, if I don't really push for the sale, right? Because if that's not enough to convince them, nothing is. Then it's probably how I look. I don't know. They're probably looking for someone older. They're probably looking for someone with a certain different background who worked at a
Gotcha.
certain company.
Yeah.
And you know what? I end up getting good clients because good clients are like, look, I gave you the reviews, I gave you the advice, and for some people, I just say, look, honestly, I'll tell people, you got a good resume. This is all you need to do. Like, just do X, Y, Z, and you could do it yourself. And people then
Hmm.
they'll give me referrals. So I'm all about. It's not always about the money. It's about adding the most value to the person. Because if you add the most value to the person, they'll give you referrals. They'll trust you and
Hmm.
all that. And that's really what I aim for.
That's incredible, and that hits on another sort of thought I had, which was for the person with no resume at all, and they need to create one, which I hopefully most people have at least something right by
Yeah,
now, but I'm sure there are some people maybe right out of college or whatever, maybe
yeah,
they don't
yeah,
have one. Versus the person like myself, for example, who has a resume. Like what I had to do recently is I had to change my resume around pretty much totally from, I mentioned my time at Verizon as an
yeah,
engineer to my teaching careers. I had to kind of modify that
yeah,
in
yeah,
order to appeal to potential teacher positions. But then a third sort of pivot now into like this music and content creation. Um, I've been really looking at opportunities in that space now. So I said, all right, well, I've applied for some positions. I'm looking at my resume. I'm like, wait a second. The main thing on the resume that stands out is my teaching and
yeah,
engineering. Who's going to hire me to do anything related to music or
yeah,
interview
yeah.
or creation? So I had to really modify that a lot too. So to your point, like for someone who feels as though they have the framework down but needs a little bit more, that 15-minute thing could be extremely valuable
Yeah,
to
I mean,
them.
look, I'd straight up tell you, like, what you would do, make sure in your summary you indicate your passion for content creation, link to your IG, link to all these stuff, and link to other projects. Like, you want to put front and center, you want to put
Yeah.
that you have a YouTube channel, that you have this many subs, that you do XYZ, that you've conducted this many interviews,
Yeah.
in this many, how many views you've gotten. And then
Yeah.
that shows, okay, cool. Like, this guy is serious about content creation because he has this other thing, but content creation is where he's going to go. And again, it allows you it brings a different perspective. Because look, I used to be an actuary, right? I work with Excel and numbers all day.
Yeah.
So now the thing is, when content creation, I look at things from an analytical perspective. Like, why is this content working? Why is this getting views? What can
Right.
I do to improve my content? What is it? Length is that? And because content creation is both a science and an art, right?
Yeah.
There are formulaic things for how content works, but then there's the art aspect
Sure.
where how and you have to know the science of it and the art of it to combine them in just the right balance of each,
That's so well said.
right?
And
Because
you
the best artists don't necessarily do the best on IG, right? The people,
uh-huh.
right? You're gonna
That's
see the
exactly right.
crazy talented people, crazy talented music, right? You have to know
Hmm.
the science, you have to know the business aspect of it, and you have to
Yeah.
find the right blend. And then you see some people who are like whack artists, whack things. You're like, yo, this person's, but they know the business side. So it's,
Then
but you want to find the right balance of each.
right, right. Man, that definitely spoke to me for sure. And you mentioned about LinkedIn. And so what stood out to me from our first conversation that we had, a couple actually when I was talking to you on the phone that particular day, my wife and I, what we do now from time to time is when the weather is like nice, well, it's pretty much nice, not year round, but over the summers it's nice pretty much every day. I'll move my car from the driveway parking spot. We live in a townhouse, and we have those. You've seen those anti-gravity chairs before, the joints
Yeah.
that fold up and then you can kind of get fully reclined on it.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll bring those two, sit outside. We'll maybe get either some wine or some water and just sit and have a little cup holder there, and we just like sit out in the sun as if we're like in the beach, but we're really just in a parking spot outside our house. So that
Yeah.
particular day
Respect.
when you exactly, it's super enjoyable for us both now. But that day I was sitting out there when I had spoken to you that day, And you were talking about LinkedIn. And for me, and it's interesting because from that day to until today, I've had a little bit of a sort of realization and transformation and thought process about what's, and this is a whole nother tangent which we could talk about
Yeah.
a little bit if you want to, if you'd like to. But the impact, negative impact social media has been having on my particular life, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
negative impact. And so I had to kind of make some adjustments, and I'm kind of, as a content creator, I'm not like in the position to say, oh, I'm going cold turkey and I'm just quitting social media. I'm
Yeah.
not doing
Yeah.
anything drastic. But I did delete everything from my phone. I have it on my iPad, so I don't
Yeah.
like having that sort of grasp over me, that
No.
swipe,
Yeah. I
all
gotta
that
answer
stuff.
this message. I gotta do this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, man, totally. So that was a new development. But LinkedIn specifically, when you were mentioning how impactful that's been for you, I know that a lot of my content, like these podcast episodes and stuff, there's some people on the Instagram world who will gravitate towards it and who will find it interesting and insightful. But I believe that the stuff that I'm talking about in this episode for sure, and several of my other ones, are geared around being a better person and inspiring others and all that kind of stuff. And that type of content, I think, makes so much more sense to live on LinkedIn versus other platforms. Of course, it can be on other platforms too. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, I've checked your LinkedIn profile. I see like the way that you sort of conduct yourself on there in a professional manner. I love the way you said it tied, like your interactions tied directly to your profile. You don't have to like go somewhere else to see what you're about. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about like how that sort of discovery of LinkedIn sort of worked for you, and maybe any tips or anything you can have for people out there
Yeah.
that don't know much or don't know anything about LinkedIn, how they
Yeah.
can kind of establish a presence there.
So first, let me define. So you mentioned that I'm professional on LinkedIn, but I want to again, it goes back to the art and science. So LinkedIn is a professional social network. So it's both professional and both social. So while
Mm-hmm.
I am professional, I'm also social. I'm real. So I act how I would be in an office. So I make jokes, I do these things, but I keep it, there's some things I'm like, yo, that's for Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do I make that realization? I took a 100-hour course on Facebook ads. It was a
Wow.
friend's brother, right? A friend from high school, Power of Networking. His brother
Yeah.
had like a agency. He had a course on Facebook ad, 100 hours. So I learned a lot about algorithms, how they work. It gave me an idea.
Yeah.
I was using IG and I was growing a following IG, but it wasn't going for traffic, right? And then I somehow I came across LinkedIn. I was like, the organic reach is high, and on IG I'm competing with like beautiful women, celebrities, athletes, you name it, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who are super creative.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, I'm competing with accountants. Where do I? It's so much easier. And then the other thing is, it's like,
Mm.
think of the mindset of someone who goes on LinkedIn versus other platforms. IG, you're kind of looking for more casual. You're kind of looking for something else on Facebook. Whereas LinkedIn, you're looking for more business, entrepreneurship focus, right? You're
Yeah.
more on that mindset, right? And I find a lot of the things on IG relate to entrepreneurship are just selling dreams. Like, oh yeah, work with
Mm.
your laptop anywhere. They're
Yeah.
surface level. There's something you tell a 15-year-old, but you're an adult. It's like, look, I need some actual advice. Don't tell me I could work on a laptop in the beach. Tell me like how to go there, and don't tell me a $5,000 course to
Right.
get to that lifestyle, right?
Sure.
So LinkedIn was that. So then the other thing is, it's like, now I don't have people under 18 typically on LinkedIn. So I'm getting rid of the people who aren't going to buy, or who don't have money, or who, again, when you're 12 to 15, you don't care about your job, right?
Sure.
You care
Sure.
about beautiful women, you care about
Right.
games, you care about other things. It's just how it is. And
Sure.
then you also don't get the crazy racist uncles and grandmas who are sharing weird stuff on Facebook and IG, right? So you
Right.
get a more professional environment. The organic reach was high. Typically, you know how most social media platforms, only 10% of people like and engage, and only 10% of people on that, which is 1%, create content.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is actually half of that. It's actually 0.5%. It might have changed, but it was half that, because think about it. A lot of people are afraid of losing their jobs and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's that filter like, hey, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want my employer seeing.
Right.
I want to keep it professional. So you're competing with less content creators. The content creators aren't as good. So I was like, yo, this is where I can. And then I've been using Reddit since I was in high school, since like '08. If you look at my
Wow.
Reddit username, it's like 13-year award.
Yeah.
I would read a lot of posts, so that gave me like, yo, what makes a good comment, right? I've read a lot about content marketing. When I look at a post, I analyze it, like what's the structure,
Mm,
how's it written, and so that helped me develop a voice on LinkedIn.
mm,
Then the other thing is, it's like when you comment on LinkedIn, you see the title, right? It'll say Jonaed Iqbal, founder NoDegree.com. It'll say No Degree Podcast, right? Because
mm,
I used to comment on Reddit, but people don't check the username,
mm-hmm,
right? I used to
mm-hmm,
answer on Quora, but again, Quora's tough because those people make crazy answers. I was like, I don't got time for this. Whereas
mm-hmm,
LinkedIn is like, I could just be supportive, I could congratulate, I could keep in contact. And then I did that, and I did it consistently. So now it's like 2.5 years. I could have grown, I'm at like 32K followers. I could have grown faster, but I would have had to devalue what I stand for. Like they're easy, like hey, like this post if you like America,
mm,
or like this post. But I felt like I wanted to do it through quality content. So
mm-hmm,
I've seen other people grow faster, but they've done it with like, hey, work hard, you'll be successful. Like just those empty hustle
mm-hmm,
porn memes and stuff.
mm-hmm,
But then what happens is when they post real content, that content doesn't do well. They can't post content about their business because they've just built up these people who like fluff content. So I was
mm,
able to sort of develop a voice, and I focused on a lot of areas so that I'm always giving different advice, sharing insights, and I share it in a unique way so that people know, like, hey, they know that I don't write my business page content. Even though my business page, my virtual assistant, she's amazing, but they know
mm.
it's not my voice. So a lot of it was just like, hey, I'm here to just support people, help people. And people will be like, hey, how do you get so many comments, on LinkedIn? And it'll be like, look, all those people, I've supported their content. When they needed help, they message me, I answer, right? And I've
Mm.
done it consistently for 2 years. And that's what I like about LinkedIn. It's networking on steroids. And especially when the pandemic happened, even before the pandemic, it's like I don't even have to leave my house and I could just support people. Whereas like I don't have to
Mhm.
take a train and all that. Not that I don't mind, but it
Mhm.
did open up a lot of opportunity. And another thing I did was I utilized dead time. What is dead time? Like let's say you have 10 minutes, you're waiting online, you're waiting for someone to show up to a meeting, or arrived early at a place. I spend that time on LinkedIn. Now I have 10 minutes, whereas before it would be on IG or other things, and
Yeah.
it's not as productive. I spend that time on LinkedIn, and you add that up over time, and so that's why I did LinkedIn, and the organic reach is like so high. It's so
Mm.
underrated. I've told so many people to go on LinkedIn. I've told a lot of my clients, but a lot of people just not active. So it's like a lot of people fall off. They'll go hard for 1-2 months. They don't get results, but it's like I've gotten referrals from people I've connected with over 2 years ago,
Mm.
and and these referrals, like someone, they'll just be like, hey, look, this person said you're the resume guy. I gotta use you, and right, and they don't worry about price as much. They're like, look, I know you get results, so they're not worried. Oh, 500 for a resume, that's not too bad. Like 600 for a
Mm.
resume, okay, cool. And I've just learned a lot over the time.
Bro, that's I'm just like soaking everything that you just mentioned, and that's like super informative. And I appreciate again, all the information there because I think anyone out there that might be listening that may find themselves in a similar space as you and I, which want like strategizing on how to be successful, how to get their face, their business, their brand in front of the right audience. The 10% and then the 10% thing that you just mentioned about Instagram, that is so true. I've seen those same numbers that you mentioned.
It's across all social media platforms. It's always 1% of content creators.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very small, right? Just a very
Yeah,
small amount. And I had to catch myself shortly after our first conversation. I was saying to myself, my YouTube channel is my sort of home base. That's
yeah,
where my content lives. That's where I originally spent the most time in terms of making content for that platform. But then something happened maybe in the past several months where I would spend a lot more time using Instagram and looking at stuff as
yeah,
well as creating content specific for Instagram. Now, I know that, as a creator, as a business, like it's extremely important, of course, to have a presence on, several different social networks, of course. But I was kind of like, I just had a waking up one morning and saying to myself, like what's the exact value that I'm getting out of
yeah,
making this video of me doing something musical or doing something creative that's fun and posting it on Instagram. What exactly is that, like, is the value in doing that for me? I had to really think about that.
yeah,
And I wasn't able to come up with anything. It's not
yeah,
it was, what I'm saying, it wasn't there, and I'm like, all right, that was sort of the little light bulb
Yeah.
moment. Whereas with LinkedIn, like you just said, like I'm extremely excited now to strategize, some of my stuff, around that. I think that even double dipping back on some of my old episodes, I've had these different things that I've learned in the past several years that when I first started my channel, for someone coming there as a new YouTuber, they're probably like, they might be thinking like, who is this guy? Like, why would I
Yeah.
take advice from this guy about X, Y, and Z type of a thing? But now that I have a little bit more of a presence and established, myself a little bit more, there are things that I talked about. I mean, I'll give you just a quick little example. There's like things that I talked about where you do like a circle, you put your name in the middle,
Yeah.
and then around the circle, you're gonna put down like your 5 hats that you wear. In my
Oh, I
case,
like that.
what am I? I'm a husband, I'm a friend, entrepreneur. What else? Maybe at the time I was an employee and I don't know, son, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then like kind of like being honest with yourself and like putting a dot closer to the word if you feel like you're spending a lot of time, like if you're meaningfully doing a good job at being a husband and being a friend or being an entrepreneur, and put it closer to the center if you feel like, man, I'm not really doing, I haven't really reached out to my parents that often. And then
Yeah.
eventually you get some type of like a little, figure that might look like, I'm kind of doing it really quick here, but you might get something that looks like this, where you then look at it and you say to yourself, like, dang, the entrepreneur aspect in this case is not really, it's not realistic at
Yeah.
all. And it's not even drawn to scale at all. But basically, it's a visual idea that you can do monthly to say to yourself, like, yo, I need to be a little bit more well balanced, right? I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
ignoring important sort of roles that I should have in my life. So like things like that. I had an episode on that, and like I would love to. I mean, LinkedIn is a perfect place for me to have a post. So let me ask you this: you create like a post on LinkedIn. You're like act like
Yeah.
a blog post, so to speak, right?
Shorter than a blog post.
Shorter, just some
Yeah.
tips, like a little opening thing,
Yeah.
a little tips, maybe a picture, maybe whatever, and then some
Yeah. Sure.
hashtags or whatever, that whole thing.
Yeah, so I'll give resume advice on LinkedIn. I'll give career advice. I'll give a story. Like I'll talk about things that are messed up, like
Hmm.
right, and I'll kind of give a voice and I'll answer the comments. And you
Yeah.
know the other thing that helped me grow is, let's say when I first got like 5 likes and 2 comments, I went to each of those 5 likes. I gave them 3 likes on their page. For each of the 2 comments, I gave 3 comments on their page.
Yeah.
And I did that. Now, obviously, I can't do that because now I'll get like 100, 200 likes.
Yeah.
But I make sure to support those people who have supported me along the way. And
Yeah.
if you ever see someone with a big LinkedIn following and they're not getting engagement, it's typically because they've done that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't
Mm-hmm.
done that. Right? They haven't supported. Right? So that's something I did. And through these is I built connections. I met my two of my business partners because of LinkedIn. Right? I've
Mm-hmm.
never met one of them in person.
Wow.
And
That's
now it's
dope.
like he's he look, the business would not be where it is without him. 100%. He's the most important member of the business. I have no shame in saying that. And again, it's like now we're best friends. And now the day when I meet him, it's like, yo, we know each other for like 2 years, and now we're
Man.
well, whatever, maybe a year and a half.
Sure.
And that's just the power of just being supportive, being strategic, being smart, and supporting others.
Mm-hmm. So you
And then
talk
also,
about our connection, our relationship, the way that we met, and now you're even going, further and talking about other people, not even just one, other people that you've met virtually through, through LinkedIn and maybe other places that you formed. Like, I mean,
yeah,
you're a business partner. You guys formed the company together. It
yeah,
sounds
yeah. We
like
have a LLC,
like that's
document contracts, and we
that's
work very
huge.
well together. We spend hours a day on meetings discussing strategies, and but just a lot of podcast guests, right? It's like if I want someone on my podcast, I support their content. Be like, and then what happens is now I'm known as like in among a lot of people as a no degree guy. So anytime there's like, oh yeah, college degree is a waste article, boom, I'm getting tagged. Hey, Elon Musk said college degrees are not needed. Boom, I get 3 people
That's
messaging me, and I'm like, thanks. So it's like it really helps that.
yeah,
Especially the beauty is if you're doing something unique on LinkedIn, you stand out. Like if you're
yeah,
an accountant, it's much harder to stand out because there's so
yeah.
many accountants. If you're a financial advisor, but if you're doing something unique, it people remember. Oh, no college. Oh, you got to talk to Jonaed. Or people forget my name, but they'll search up no degree, and
No
it's like,
degree.
oh, but the no
Yeah,
degree guy. That's how I found him.
that's
Right?
the
People
one I'm
forget my
looking.
name all the time. But
Yeah,
that's the power of LinkedIn. It's like, yo, that music guy, that teacher who's
yeah.
a creative. You'll be known as that.
Yeah, man, that's extremely dope. So, how big is your company now? Is it you have? Are you the only person doing the resume, or is your business partner also
No,
doing them as well?
so I have two companies. So I have a virtual events company, and I have the No Degree company. The virtual events, we do online conferences, and if any of your audience, feel free to message me because it's you have to see it. It's one of those things that you have to kind of see it for it to make
Okay,
sense. But it's
sure.
basically like a virtual space where you can click around, you can go to different tables, and it's the closest thing to an actual conference without a physical conference, right? So I do
Mm,
that. That's a team of four, right? So I have three business partners. Now we have a staff of 20 to 30 that works with us, and at times for larger conferences, we'll go to like 70 to 90, right? For tech
yeah,
support because we provide tech support, making sure that these run well. If people have issues, that we have
yeah,
1-800 hotline and all that.
yeah.
Now, and we've ran over close to 200 to 300 events over the since last year, and it's
Wow.
growing. And
Yeah.
we've had months where we had 100K in revenue, right?
Wow.
So it's like that's a serious business.
Yeah.
Now I have five people total, including me, in NoDegree.com. One of them is a partner in both, right? So Ace
Okay.
Virtual Events. So I have three different partners, and the beauty is one of them was from my second grade class. One of them I went to high school with. One of them I met in college. And one of them, the other business partner, we knew each other since the seventh grade when I moved in. He used to live on the second floor of this house. He lives like two
Wow.
blocks away now.
Yeah.
But those are my business partners. But they each do a different function. So I do all the resumes. They work full time jobs, so they contribute in other ways. But
Yeah.
the other two, they're very technical. So the tech resumes they handle. Because while I can do a lot of resumes, I can't ask you the things need software engineering. Like, yeah, maybe I know Active Directory, I know this, but I can't ask you the real things. Like, hey, how'd you debug? What'd you use to compile? I don't know past the surface level. So they're the
Mm,
ones that look at the technical resumes, right?
wow.
Because they know how to. Because here's the thing: to do a resume, I need to ask you the right questions. But if I have no idea, with the finance person, oh, how much did you work with? What are your budgets? Who'd you work with? Who'd you report to? What are the blank things, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get
Mm-hmm.
crazy technical. Even for
Mm-hmm.
music, what'd you use to create music? How many tracks? What'd you do? Who'd you collaborate with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. How many tracks? How much did it make? Right?
Mm-hmm.
With software, it just gets super deep and stuff, and they look for certain things, and I don't know the languages, I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
softwares, the follow-up questions, so they do that. And we have a healthy mix. That we have one of them is the CPA. He helps, understands the accounting. The other one, just everybody's doing a little bit of everything.
A nice mix, man. That's key, man. So you started with the no degree with just was it just you when you first started?
With
And
two of the business partners, I called them right away. I called the other one. He didn't really think domain name. He thought it was too much for a domain name, but now he's really part of it and invested in it. So it's just two
gotcha.
of them. Then we split the $600. So we split 600 each.
Yeah.
No, it was we got it down to 14. So it was like 550 each or something like that.
Okay.
500 each.
Okay. Man, this is a lot of really good information. I mean, just definitely appreciate all the info. I want to talk a little bit about, and we'll come back to some other stuff in a moment, but I want to talk a little bit about music in your life. Specifically, take a moment to think about it. But if you have a chance to go to a dream concert of yours and you have five artists spanning all time, so living or dead, five artists
Yeah.
that are performing there, which five artists are going to be performing at your concert?
This is tough, man, because
I
you say
know
alive or dead.
it's not an easy question, man.
Rock him.
Nice. Okay.
He's my favorite of all time. I'd have to, you have Nas, right?
Okay.
I'm a big Nas guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you say dead, I gotta get Pac and Biggie, man.
Both.
And yeah, just
Okay.
both. Now I got one left. I don't know. Does Wu Tang count as one? Wu Tang Clan
Sure.
count as
Someone
one?
had Wu
Okay,
Tang before, so yes.
okay. Wu Tang definitely. Those are
Okay.
my top five.
Dang, that's dope. Did you watch the Wu Tang documentary that came on
No, when did it come out?
so I think it came out like a year ago maybe, and it was on I think Showtime. And then
Okay.
I don't have Showtime. We don't have it at the house, but they put like the first episode on YouTube for
Yeah,
free,
yeah,
like on the Showtime
yeah.
a YouTube account, and then I'm pretty sure it's still there. And then they put all the episodes on there, so the whole
Okay.
thing should still be on YouTube. We
Okay, I'm gonna
watched
check it
like
out.
the it's really if you're a fan of theirs, yeah, it's super. Because I of course obviously know about Wu Tang Clan, but I really didn't know that much about them at all. And
Yeah, I
learn
don't know. Look, I know their songs and stuff, and
mm-hmm,
but not like, and I
to
know they're
that.
like funny guys and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you would love it, man. Yeah, you would love it. Just hearing about yeah, just everything. I won't spoil anything. It's not
Yeah,
really a
yeah,
spoiler, but yeah, it's definitely worth checking out for sure. That's good, man. So you got all rappers. So rap. That's your genre right there.
yeah. Yeah, look, I like all genres,
Yeah.
but I don't know, man. Something. Oh man, I didn't say Eminem, but
Oh,
it's tough, man. Big
I'm a
Eminem guy.
big
Yeah,
M
it's
guy. You're a fan of his too, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like Eminem, man.
Oh man.
I'm a big fan of like the older rappers. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
something
yeah.
about their flow, and Rakim just because he set the foundation. He really like
Oh yeah.
allowed. He opened up that genre. Yeah, I'm a big rap guy. Look, I do like rock. I do like all those other things,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Sometimes you just oh damn, and now Mob Deep too. I would have loved to see.
Oh
You just
man. We gotta
top five
amend
is
it up
tough.
to 10 now. We
Up to
got
10.
10,
Yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
artists.
So yeah, and just because I don't know, rap just moves. It just has.
Oh yeah.
There's some singers, but I don't know, something about a rapper and their energy, man. It's something
Oh,
else.
100%, man. Yeah. So definitely by far my favorite genre and most listened to genre in my life has to be, rap as well.
Yeah,
And, with me playing the piano and learning different music and stuff, like I'm growing to or, gaining a lot more excitement and exposure in these other genres that maybe historically I hadn't listened to
yeah, yeah,
too much of. Like one I guess passion project it probably doesn't even sound that exciting to others,
yeah.
but something that I really want to do is I want to do like my top 100 non-hip hop songs. And so
Oh,
like there are certain songs on there that I know are going to be there. For example, you heard of No Doubt before, right?
yeah, yeah,
The band, the group. So like so my sister used to be a huge fan of theirs, right? And I don't maybe she still is. I don't even think they're like a band together or whatever
yeah.
anymore. But she used to listen to them all the time. My younger sister growing up, and um dang, what's the name of the song? You and me. Don't Speak. So the song
Okay.
Don't Speak, just what you're that song, like I love so much.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so the other day I'm like looking up the chord chart so I can learn how to play it on the piano and sing it a little bit. And I'm doing it and I just really was just like I got like chills. Like it
yeah, yeah,
sounded,
yeah.
I just love it so much. So there's like songs like that. There's like Dancing Queen from ABBA,
Okay.
which is a song that some people like one time I was at a karaoke event and I wanted to sing that. And
Yeah,
people were
yeah,
looking at me like, what the hell you picking that song for? Like, what's going on with you? I was like, I don't care. I'm singing this song right
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah.
Then you got things like the Backstreet Boys and stuff, like all these like nostalgic things. Like I really,
I love nostalgic music, man. It
oh
just,
man,
I
it's
don't know,
so
gets that
good.
feeling. It just gets that feeling in you and stuff.
It's like to me, man, it's like, and I've had conversations with other people too. Aside from having like a home video of you when you were
Yeah,
younger and you're watching it, and it's like that can
yeah.
obviously transport you there. But aside from that, music I think is like maybe one of the only things that like
No,
you can hear something. I used to play a lot of video games back in the
yeah,
day,
yes.
and so
I'm a big video game guy. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have time to play, but one day when I'm rich, I'm gonna play a lot of video games.
PlayStation 6, you'll have that with the
Yeah,
VR and just all yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, just listening to old school like video game songs and stuff like that. Like I do that from time to time as well. That's definitely a dope list there. Um, so let me ask like one or two more questions.
Yeah.
So for let's start with this one. I have a billboard question. Like if you have a chance to put up on a billboard anything that you want, and it can be, anywhere, it could be a picture, it could be words, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to know like what would you want put up on a billboard?
So selfishly, I just say NoDegree.com, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
selfish one. Black, white
Mm-hmm.
font, collegiate
Yeah.
font, NoDegree.com. But
Okay.
now, let's say I have it made and I have more influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my, I put a quote, and there are two quotes that I like, so it's kind of hard. But if you know what, we're in the modern era, so I can kind of change, right? I'll get the LED one, so I kind
There
of
you
change.
go.
So
There you
I
go.
like be the change you wish to see in the world,
Okay.
right?
Love it.
And then the other one is discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it.
Mm.
And that's when I learned that from wrestling camp. And sometimes it's like, do I want to work out now? No. Do I want to work out? No. Do I want to do it now? No. I got to
Mm-hmm.
go work out. So that
Mm-hmm.
helped me, especially a lot in business. And especially if you want to reach a certain level of success, it's like, it's a lot of habits. A lot of people say, hey, what motivates you? It's like, I don't rely on motivation to work and do what I do. I rely on habits and consistency. Like every day, it's not like I wake up like, yeah, I want to go to work. Like, no. It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I got to do these things, got to get it done. I enjoy my work, and motivation, I do have times where I'm more motivated, I'm not, but the fact is you're not always going to be motivated, and sometimes you just got to grind it out, right? You
Yeah.
look at the Olympics are going on right now. You think they were happy every day of practice? No, they just had to grind it out.
Right.
Practices suck, right? But You got to do what you got to do.
That's powerful, man. Yeah. And I think even on top of that, like one of the things that I've seen that relates very much to what you just mentioned, something I posted on Instagram before I deleted it from my phone,
Yeah.
was a screenshot of it was what looked like an Excel spreadsheet, but it was like these 2 days can be equally as productive. Day left was, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
hour there's something going on. Boom, 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 boom. Day two or second day is just from pretty much the whole day was just at rest. It was one color,
Yeah.
all rest. So they were talking about that ebb and flow of like, I
Yeah.
guess in order to be successful, you're going to have those scenarios that you have to face that you just mentioned, where you do have to push yourself and be willing and know that,
Yeah.
yes, to be an entrepreneur, like it's all on you. Like this is new for me, right? So I left teaching just a few months ago. And what's interesting is some people say, oh, do you feel like it was like risky or do you this and that? And for me, I'm kind of like, I don't feel any sense of questioning whether or not I'm gonna reach the goals that I have for myself. Some may say that's pompous or overconfident,
No, it's
whatever.
not.
I just know that I'm willing and I know that I'm going to make it happen, like no matter what.
Yeah.
So there's no like, there was a time where it would be hard for me to say those types of things. I'd be like a little more reserved and like a little bit like more on that end. But now I'm comfortable with being able to say that and speak, highly about myself when I need to. But there's like something now. This is the first time in my life as of 2 months ago, where I don't have the quote unquote, safety net. I don't have the security, that I had for 12 years at Verizon and 2 years teaching.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's an interesting sort of experience. It's like now it's like, oh, it puts things in overdrive a little bit, right? It's no more about like half in, half out. But it is super exciting. I mean, we live in a world where, you're helping people with their resumes and you're doing things that you love to do. Um, you're helping me, you're helping my audience. Hopefully, some exposure and things like that. And the last question I'm gonna ask you is, I think, extremely important. So people that are part of my audience, for the most part, a lot of them are people that make music and stuff like that. Definitely entrepreneurs and definitely just people who know me and follow me just to check my content. So it's kind of well rounded. But for the people that are the creatives out there, that may not have a resume created already and or a LinkedIn account created, if you could just touch on, I know we talked about the importance of LinkedIn and stuff earlier, but if you could touch on like any advice that you can have for the person that's watching this, that makes music, posted on social media and stuff, but doesn't necessarily have a resume or a LinkedIn like professional sort of thing for themselves. If there's any like input or suggestions that you can
So
have for that
look,
person too.
you always got to have a website, right? You got to have a work your portfolio. You guys have it ready. And now this is how I would use LinkedIn as a creative. You do some work for a client, right? Because realize that just because you may be producing your own music, but what do a lot of people do? They make a lot of money licensing out their thing for commercials, for
Yeah,
other things, and all that. You have to think about all these videos, right? That corporations create. They have a tone, they have a jingle, and all that stuff. Where does that
sure.
come from? From those creatives, right? There's a
Yep.
whole market out there that's just not traditional music. Like you don't think of, hey, when I'm making music, that I make these things. So now it's like, hey, you made a music for a friend's commercial. Be like, hey, I had the pleasure of working this. It took me X number of hours. Share that. Now
Mm,
what are you doing? You're showing that social proof that hey, you did it for a client. You did that. You never know. They might be like, hey, I need something for my music, or hey, I'm creating a video. I want to consult with you. And you corporations, where are they gonna kind of pick at make connections with these people at these companies. So
yeah.
kind of do it that way. Like if you're creating music, share the music video, share the editing process. Like hey, here's 30-second jingle, right? How
Hmm.
long it took me actually 2 days to create because here's my process. I went and I sampled XYZ. I did all
Mm.
that. Here's how many samples I went through. Share the process. Now what happens is you establish your credibility and you open up a lot of opportunity. Like Pusha T made the McDonald's jingle, and so
I didn't know
unfortunately he
that.
didn't get royalties for it. Like and he also made Arby's We Have the Meats. He did get
Pusha T
royalties.
made those two?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's like you realize that these other things, and I think there's another rapper I saw on TikTok that he realized that he didn't want to go on Spotify. He wanted to he wanted to license his game in music, like Call of Duty and all that stuff. So realize that music is in so many aspects of our lives,
Hmm.
and a lot of these, like how do you get music in a movie? How do you get music in this? How do you get music in a commercial? showcase your abilities, have conversations, and realize that you are professional. Like, just because you're a creative doesn't mean you're unprofessional. You are very professional, right? You have to go to the studio, you have costs and all that. Find
Hmm.
other creators to collaborate with, and you just have a world of opportunity. And even a resume, it's just, again, it's simple. It's just like, I did a resume for a creative, and you'd be surprised. There are some corporate opportunities. Like, I knew a guy who was like an art director. He works at Google, right, on the creative side. Like, these companies, they have interesting things. I know like a guy who does like the murals for the corporate offices and stuff, right?
Oh,
There's so
nice.
many, like, there's so many jobs that
Yes.
you really have to take a step back and be like, who made that? How'd they get paid? Who they
Right.
find it, right? They went through an agency. So you really have to take a step back and just expand your mind and realize there are so many opportunities. And then the person who was the creative, like, you could say that when I did his resume, I broke it down. Like, talk about how many music videos you did, how many views that they got on YouTube, how many times was this music played, right?
Hmm.
What did it appear in? Who did you collaborate with? Again, it shows oh, I know how to work with directors. I know how to work with this. I moved up from this. That's a resume. That's what a lot of people don't understand, and it's always good to have that. It, again, if you have a decent resume and you can communicate professionally, it shows a certain level of, they just they pass it on. They'll be like, yo, check out this guy's video, and here's his resume. And they'll be like, oh, he worked with XYZ. Here's the other thing about LinkedIn. LinkedIn shows your mutual connections. So
Hmm.
let's say you and I are connected, right? Let's
Hmm.
say someone gives me an intro. Oh, check out Kevin. He makes music, man. He's a cool background. Then I see, oh, Kevin's connected to my boy Andre or my boy Nazmo. I'm like, yo, you know Kevin? He's like, yeah, we went to school together, this and that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy's
Yeah.
making music. Again, so you want to start expanding your network. So anybody that you do work for, connect with them. Make
Right.
sure they write a review. Hey, Kevin was amazing to work with. He was super professional. He captured the essence of my music, right? Those type of
Mm.
things. Like, oh, just realize all these opportunities, like these logo stings that have a jingle, right? There's a music component, whether it's
Yeah.
3 to 5 seconds, like whatever, I don't know, the sound associated with it, right? So there's so much opportunity. It's all about just expanding your mind that your talents can be used in so many ways. It's all about how creative you can get.
Man, that's powerful. You could expect to hear that on a LinkedIn little video
Yeah,
snippet
yeah. Yeah,
eventually.
looking forward to it.
That's it, man. Yeah, bro. I feel like this is one of those special conversations, man, where learned a lot, excited about the future, with you, and didn't even know about the second company. I think that's such an incredible idea as well. The virtual conference type thing like
Yeah.
that.
And look, I don't own the software.
Hmm.
I'm just a vendor of the platform, but we just
Gotcha,
got really good at it and developed the business of it.
gotcha. What's the name of the platform?
Remo?
Remo. Okay, because I've heard
Yeah, I'll
of
send
one.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they're a lot.
definitely share it with me. There was one that it starts with letter H. Hoppin or
Hoppin,
Hobson?
Hoppin. So,
Hoppin?
so yeah, so Remo is a little more like Hoppin is. Think of Remo as Hoppin is better for super large conferences with thousands of attendees. Remo's better for actual networking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Got you. Yeah, definitely. We'll take that offline. I definitely want to hear like a little bit more about that because I've, been
Yeah,
in many a conference in person in my day in the old world. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
would love to see what that experience is like and things like that for sure. But we will end with that. And I just wanted to see if there's anything else that you like to add, you feel free to. And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah. So look, follow my podcast, the No Degree podcast on NoDegree.fm. It's on all your favorite platforms. You can see a lot of the interviews. I've had interviews with CEOs, of UFC fighters, creatives, entrepreneurs, workers, all the time. And they talk about how they got to the journey and how they got to where they are. Check out NoDegree.com if you're sort of looking for a job. A lot of career advice out there. And, feel free to reach out to me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, right? Shoot me a message. Say, hey, I heard you on Kevin's YouTube channel. Let me know. And I'm always here to sort of do my best to at least point people in the right direction.
That's dope, man. Yeah, you're a great dude, and just wish you the best, in your future endeavors. I'm sure you're heading obviously in the right direction. And just from chatting with you, I kind of look at myself as someone who, I think pretty good judge of character in terms of like just seeing what's in someone type thing. And just from chatting with you in a little bit of time, I can see that you've
Thank you. That means a lot.
provided, yeah, for sure, man. Just a lot of great positivity and great information, and the fact that the entrepreneur thing that we relate on that level is always nice, connecting with people that are in this different spaces but similar in terms of what we're kind of marching towards. So look forward to continuing the relationship, checking out more of your podcasts, and really looking forward to sharing this with my audience and your audience in the next week or two.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Pleasure was all mine. Have a great rest of the night, my man, and I will see you next time. All right.
All right, next
All
time.
right. Take care.